It is summer 2023 and it is hotter than balls outside, so that means I am staying in and watching more anime. Okay, let's be honest. I was going to do that regardless, but this gives me an excuse. Now, for me, this kind of feels like it's only been a couple of weeks since I did my last review, and that is because it has. I decided to do the same thing that I did last time and just kind of review things as I finish watching them. So, spoilers, I guess, for whatever the fuck I end up watching. I'll be sure to put timestamps just so it's a little easier to see what is where in case you're trying to avoid specific spoilers. So I guess we're going to start off with the shows that did not or aired before this summer, and we're actually going to start off with a few movies. Jujutsu Kaisen Zero. Now I have mixed feelings about this movie. The action's great. The action has always been great for Jujutsu Kaisen. And the part that I've always been kind of on the fence about is the story. The story's always hit or miss for me. Sometimes it's great and sometimes it's mid, I guess. And that's kind of the way I felt with this whole story, but I'll get into a little bit more details with that in a second. So this is a prequel to the first season, and the main person that we follow is a new character, which threw me off for a little bit because I didn't really know what to expect going into this, but I figured that it would be kind of like a continuation or maybe like a side story with the characters that we have already seen, which granted, the, there's not a whole lot of new characters in this. Most of them are people that we've seen before, but the main person that we follow is completely new, and I had no idea who the fuck he was. And that's probably my big issue with the whole movie, or the at least the story part of the movie, because we the big bad guy that they fight, we already know he's in the first season, so we know that he lives through all of these events. And the main guy we're following hasn't been shown at all in the first season. So I kind of felt like this was more of just like an introduction to this character that we may end up seeing later. And hopefully we see him later. Otherwise, this was a complete fucking waste of time. And I'm all for backstory and everything. I mean, I watched a couple of episodes for the new season, the second season of Jujutsu Kaisen, and so far it kind of seems like they're doing backstory again, which has been great for that so far. But this kind of feels like there wasn't a payoff. I, again, it felt more like they were just introducing this character, and I don't feel like it's gone anywhere yet. So that's my big complaint of it. Again, it was a good movie, but probably if there's not a payoff, I'm going to be pissed. That's probably where I'm at right now. If he doesn't show up at some point later on, then I'm going to rate this movie as terrible. But if he does, then it's okay. Isekai Quartet, Another World. I fucking love this movie. And I'm so sad that I didn't see this earlier. This movie has apparently been out for a year, and I had no idea. I just saw it and decided, hey, yeah, sure, I'll watch this. I liked all the seasons, so I might like this. And I gotta tell you, they killed it with this movie. Now, Isekai Quartet has never been like a super serious show or anything. It's just kind of been throwing all the characters together and putting them in different situations. But this kind of added a more concrete story that they put into a movie so they could take more time. And I gotta say, I really like what they did. One thing that Isekai Quartet is really good at is incorporating all the characters to feel like they are a part of the story. And in this format, I don't know who the fuck is watching like early Avengers and figuring out how to incorporate a large cast, but whoever made this movie fucking succeeded. It feels like every single character is important in some way to the story. I mean, not everyone gets the same amount of screen time, but it doesn't matter because they all feel like they are needed for the story, or they at least contribute. And there are so many little jokes and references to the individual shows. Now, I've seen all of them, so I would say that I've got most of all the references, but the show that I know the most about is ReZero. And I gotta say, all the stuff that was added for that show was amazing. Like, there were so many references. There was quotes from earlier points in the show that they just took directly and then put them in different situations for this movie. And there's even stuff that's not even been fully explained in the anime just yet. It's in the light novels going past what's been shown, but it'll probably be in the next season whenever that comes out. But like stuff like Beatrice and Subaru's relationship and Amelia's strength. I mean, hell, they even had Alec Hoshin, who lived like 400 years before Subaru even got to the world. And I need to get off this subject because I will sit here and talk about ReZero this entire time. Anyway, if I knew the other anime as well as I know ReZero, I probably would have caught a few more references, but because I only know a lot of the shows through the anime and not through anything else. But even then, it's enough that I really enjoyed all the characters' involvement and everything. I don't think that you have to know like light novel details for all of the shows. Just the anime is enough to find it enjoyable. Now, I don't think this is a movie that you can just jump into without knowing anything. It relies heavily on you knowing something about the other shows. So if you haven't seen any of the other shows, you're not going to like this movie. But if you're like me and you've seen all the other shows, then this movie is fucking amazing and you should go watch it right now. Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2. All right, I'm going to be splitting this up since apparently they decided to Tarantino this bitch. They had the first season, and then they had the movie, which takes place before the first season, and then the first 5 episodes of the second season takes place before the movie, and then after that, the sixth episode on, it seems like they're going to be going with the events that happened after the first season. So the timeline's all out of order and everything. Now it's not really that hard to follow. It's not fucking rocket science or anything. So since they're not going to be getting done with the second season anytime soon, I'm just going to go ahead and cut off, and I'm only going to talk about the first 5 episodes, and I'll talk about the rest later, since it's kind of its own story, basically. I mean, it's still connected to everything else, but it's a story separate from what's going on with the rest of the season. Now, this was kind of a little bit of a backstory. I was about to call it a season. It's not really a season. It's 5 episodes. Maybe that's why they included it in with the second season, just because it wasn't all that much. But this was mostly backstory. So they had the pre-God mode Gojo, which honestly he's still super strong. So it's not really a whole lot has changed since then. But they had the pre-evil Geto. Is that how you say his name? Geto. Huh. The name is far too close. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but we're gonna go with it anyway. But they had him back when he was a good guy, and we get to see a little bit of his backstory and why he is doing a little bit of what he's doing now. Which honestly, I'm kind of glad that they did. I'm glad that they showed his reasoning for why he's doing what he's doing. So I may not agree with his decisions on what he's doing and everything, but I can at least see why. And this is something that I kind of felt like was missing in in the first season and in the movie, because I can kind of see he is the bad guy, but I don't really feel like he's doing a whole lot, honestly. Seeing his goals of, I don't want to spoil it. Never mind. I'm not gonna say his goals. But seeing what he's trying to do, it seems like there are multiple ways that he could go about it. The way that I think he's going to end up going, he doesn't really seem to be making a whole lot of moves towards that goal. So hopefully that is kind of what is happening is they use this time to kind of set up the story and everything, and they're going to progress that in the later parts of the second season. But we'll see. I really don't have a whole lot to add on the art style and the action and everything. It's Jujutsu Kaisen. You already know what you're getting into. It's good. Like there's nothing bad to say about it. So I mean, there's also I don't feel like there's anything new added either. Like it's just at a constant at this point. I mean, it's constantly good, but I'm not going to add in a whole bunch of stuff that I haven't already said. But I really like where they're going so far, and I'm at like episode 7 or 8 now. So I'm a little bit past this point where they're actually getting into the story of what the story is now, like after season 1. So I'm hoping that they, knock down some of these pins they keep setting up. But we'll see. I am excited to see it. Rurouni Kenshin. So this is the new one, not the old one. And technically it's not finished yet as of me making this, but I've seen enough of it to know my opinion of it. And this is a remaster, I think would be what it would be considered. They basically took the old one and added new art and new voice actors and made it look newer, basically. And on that, they really excelled. And my one big complaint is that it just kind of feels like the old one, but newer. Like there's nothing new here as far as like the actual story goes. I remember enough of the old one that I'm just kind of just watching and not really getting a whole lot out of it. Like it's good for nostalgia and all that fun stuff, but as far as like watching it after watching the old one, I really don't see a point. And now, if you haven't seen the old one at all, I think this is a good one to jump in on because it does look better, and I like the voice actors. Rei Takahashi is just an easily recognizable voice. She does Megumin from Konosuba, Amelia from ReZero, so of course I would recognize her. But I think she is pretty well known. But the point is that unless this is your first time watching this show, or I guess maybe if you're trying to go back and rewatch it, I think this is probably a good one to watch. Otherwise, there's no reason to watch it. I hate to say it because I mean it does look good and does sound good and all of that, but it's the same story. Like I didn't really get anything new from it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Don't watch this unless you're just in the mood to rewatch it, or if you're watching it for the first time, it's pick this one over the old one, I guess. Yeah, that's about it. Horimiya, The Missing Pieces. Okay, so this isn't actually a second season. This is the missing pieces. I guess what they decided to do is they wanted to get through the entire story in one season, but to do that, they had to get rid of a whole bunch of little stories in between. And they had enough that they just wanted to make a whole another season using those stories. And that's what this is. So if you haven't seen the first season, you are going to be confused as fuck. I've seen the first season, and I don't think I could fully tell you where everything lines up in the story. It kind of goes from the first season, and then randomly there's a story in this new season, and then it goes back to the first season, and then back and forth the entire way because they're just bits and pieces from the original. Now, if you haven't seen the original, then just go watch it. It's really good. It's Horimiya was like my second favorite rom com, so I really enjoy it. And if you have seen the first season and you haven't seen this yet, go watch it. Like I'm always excited for more of it. I think they pretty much covered everything though, so it's kind of it. I do plan on reading the manga at some point. We'll see when. I have one. I'm not about to make a whole bunch of noise looking. I'm pretty sure I have the first volume in Japanese, and it's going to be a long while before I read that. But anyway, let's get back to the anime. So I actually liked this season a little bit better than the first. Now, I wouldn't have liked it without the first. You need the first season in order to enjoy this one. But one thing that I didn't like about the first season is they kind of build up the relationship between Miyamura and Hori, and that's like the people that I want to see. That's the relationship that I want to see grow. But they decided in the first season they decided it would just take some time to go explore some other people and their relationship and everything, and I didn't like that as much. This kind of gets into their relationship, but it doesn't focus on everyone else as much. It doesn't focus on Hori and Miyamura's relationship as much. Uh, it does and it doesn't. I feel like they put most of the big points into the first season, so this is just kind of the little moments in between, which I'm completely fine with. Like I think that kind of adds to their relationship, and one of the reasons that I really like the show to begin with, because I feel like this is. I think I said the same thing whenever I was watching the original. This feels like a normal relationship. They kind of start hanging out more, they start growing and start realizing that they like each other and they have a relationship, and it feels normal, unlike a lot of other anime, what they try to portray as a relationship. So I have zero problems with them just putting in the little moments here. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. So I would suggest watching it. Undead murder farce. Bringing in the supernatural mysteries here. And this show is fine. I was excited whenever it first came on, and I like the first couple episodes, but for some reason I just got really bored with this. And I'm not even completely sure I could tell you why. It's not like it's a bad show. I don't want to give off the impression that it's completely bad, but there was just something about it that didn't hook me like it did everyone else. So the way the story works is we're basically following around the main group and they're solving mysteries. And there is an overall plot that is happening. They're trying to get back the body for one of the main characters, but overall it just doesn't feel, I can't quite put my finger on it. It just feels like there's no actual mystery. I guess would be the way to put it, because a lot of the mysteries that they're going like from job to job to do is murders, and they're easy enough to kind of figure out what's going on. As they give you information, you can pretty much figure out who the killer is. And then there's a heist in the middle that's not really a mystery. You're more just watching shit happen. But that's I think that's kind of the one problem that I have. It feels like it's missing something, and I think that may be what it is. It may be missing the mystery. So yeah, the show's fine, but I probably, if they do another season, I probably won't even watch it. I'm not that interested in it. It's fine. Holy cooly grunge. Look at how they massacred my boy. Seriously, this is going to be the only time that I say this for this season, I think. Do not watch this. There is no reason to watch it. It is not good, to say the least. Literally, to say the least. That is as nice as I can get. This feels like they took the original Fooly Cooly and tried to condense it down. Tried to condense it down to 3 episodes. Yeah, 3 episodes. And it feels like a cheap imitation, honestly. All right, look, we can admit that the original Fooly Cooly was a little weird. But this feels like they took that story and then took the heart and soul out of it. Like they're I'm getting frustrated just thinking about it. Okay, let's talk about the art style. The art style is bad. I can understand a company or show or whatever trying a new art style. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And in this case, it doesn't. I just don't like what they've done with the, I don't even know what art style this would be called. It's kind of CG-ish, but it's like a cartoony kind of CG. I'm not sure the name of it, but I don't know. Maybe it's specifically because of Fuluguli that I just don't like this art style with it. If it was for something else, it may not be as bad because the art style is similar to, well, not completely similar, but kind of similar to what they did with the new Trigun, except it worked well for Trigun and for Fulukuli looks like shit. The only good thing about this is the music. The pillows once again are brought back in to do the music and they do great. I think I heard a joke one time that the original Fulukuli was basically just one long music video for the pillows. And it's not completely wrong. Like their music is a big portion of what makes Fulukuli so great. And it really says a lot that this season, the Fulukuli Grunge, is so bad that not even the pillows can make it tolerable. So, again, just don't watch this show. It's not good at all. Bleach, Thousand Year Blood War, The Separation. Thousand Year Blood War Arc Part 2. Jesus fuck, that is a mouthful. Honestly, I kind of had mixed feelings on this season. The visuals and the sound are good. They're pretty much the same as last season. If you watch last season and enjoyed them, you'll enjoy this. There was a good amount of fights, and they were overall they were pretty decent. And I think there are more in the anime than what there was in the manga, or what there are in the manga. I don't read it. I have no idea. That's just what I've heard. But the fights are always fun to watch, and I think this is kind of where my iffiness comes from, is because There are some fights that it's hard to suspend my disbelief, which is probably not the right way of putting it, considering it's Soul Reapers fighting Quincy's in the afterlife, so it's already kind of out there as it is. But let me try to explain. The power scaling seems to be a little all over the place here. Like one of the fights, spoilers, I guess, the two captains fought against one of the enemies, and then they both get their ass kicked. Well, multiple people get their ass kicked, but two captains fought at the same time. Well, they two captains fought this one guy, and they both lost. And then Renji comes up and handles them no problem. Now I get it, Renji's kind of probably should be captain level by this point, but those other two guys aren't weak, or at least they weren't that I remember, and yet they died super easy. And it just seems weird to me that they get the what is it, the Genos effect from One Punch Man, where he's just there to show how strong the enemy is, so that the actual Saitama can come in and fucking one shot him, which is kind of what happened here in that fight. But I don't know that, and that happens kind of in multiple occasions where like a captain or somebody will come in and fight, and they'll just get dumpstered on, only for someone else to come in and handle it without too much of an issue. I don't know. It just felt weird to me in some fights, and I don't really think there's anything that can be done about it. For the most part, it's fine. I do like the fights, but some of those weird instances kind of throws it off for me. I also have mixed feelings about the ending too, but I mean, I don't think it's terrible. I just kind of they try to end it off on like a cliffhanger, but it's very clearly not a cliffhanger because they had already announced that they're going to be doing 3 parts. I think, pretty sure it's 3 parts, but they already announced they're going to be doing more, and we already know the story's not going to end where it ended. But they try to end it off on a little bit of a cliffhanger, and I don't know. For me, I just didn't like it, but I don't think it's terrible. It just seems like weird. Maybe they just couldn't find a better spot to kind of put the ending on it. And the last episode had like, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes where it wasn't even anything of the story. They just kind of put in what's his name? Cone, I think is his name. Oh no, I'm having memory problems here. I'm not that old yet. Oh no. Cone is his name, but they have him come in and do a little bit of stuff for the ending, and it just wasn't like related to what was going on in the story at that time. And I guess they just kind of figured that was a good spot to end it. And like I said, I don't think it was terrible. It just seemed weird, I guess, to me. And maybe it's because I don't read the manga. Maybe there's something there that would kind of make it a little better. I don't know, but it it seemed fine to me. The entire season seemed fine. I'm kind of hoping that the last part does a good job of wrapping up. So we'll see. Mushoku Tensei Season 2. Man, do I love this story. I actually started reading the manga so that I could get a little bit ahead of where the anime is at. But then I remember that this is actually a light novel, so I need to go back and start from the beginning and read the entire thing, which means I'm going to end up making it a series in the same way that I do the ReZero. That's an entirely different project, and that's not what I'm here to talk about. If you've seen season 1, then you'll pretty much get a lot of the gist for this season. A lot of the same world building, a lot of the same um, art style, the same musical feeling, the same story progression. It's all very similar. It's just going from the first season to the second season and continuing the story. And at first, when I watched this season, I was a little bit on the fence about whether I liked it or not. And it wasn't until I actually went back and rewatched the first season that I realized I actually went back from the beginning and just rewatched both seasons because I have a problem. But when I first watched the second season, I thought it felt a little slow. And the beginning of it wasn't all that slow, but it kind of seemed like it slowed down as the season went on. And going back and rewatching it from the beginning, I kind of realized that it's all it's not really that slow. the story progresses about the same throughout the entire story, and it there are some parts that are more action packed than others, but the entire anime isn't really that action packed. It is a lot more story building than anything else, and coming at it from that perspective, I actually think this second season sets up for the future story really well. Now, I don't, I haven't read that much past where the anime is, so I have no idea where the story is going. I mean, I've got a decent idea of where I think the story is going to go, but I don't know for sure. So we'll see. I wasn't exactly expecting this entire season to be pretty much focused on his ED. I guess what I'm trying to say is that watching it weekly kind of gives the impression that this story is very slow this season. But watching it back to back from the very beginning until the end of season two, I don't think it actually goes that much slower. I do think it is a little bit slower, but I don't think it's so much slower that it's an actual problem. Like it's still building onto stuff, and it still has a little bit of action and a little bit of stuff happening to kind of keep interest. I mean, this season is a little more focused on building, on world building and story building than the previous season, but I don't think it's a bad thing. At least not yet. We'll see when the next season comes out and see how well it transitions before I actually give too much harsh criticism to it. And like I said, I don't read the light novel or anything, and then the manga that I've read is only a little bit past where the anime is, so it's not really that much further into the story. But so this is just going to be my guess on where things are going. Because I think the way they are setting it up is that Rudy is going to join in some way with the, fight for what's her name? I don't remember the princess's name. I think she's going to end up trying back for the throne, and he's going to help her in some way. And I mean, that really seems like that's where they're trying to push things. And at that point, I think the story is going to get a whole lot more interesting and a lot more action packed. But we'll see. Sorry, I keep getting distracted. So a lot of people look at this season and think that it is not as good as the first season because of how much slower it is. And honestly, I don't completely think they're wrong. I definitely like the first season better than this season, but I don't think it's so bad that it's a problem. And again, a lot of that kind of comes from I think it's building towards something. So if it doesn't actually pay off in the end, I'm gonna be a little pissed. But overall, this season's fine. I guess I'll leave it at that. Zom 100, Bucket List of the Dead. There's a few different names for this anime, and I had no idea which one to use, so I just used the short one. Okay, there's some good and some bad with this show, and I guess we're just gonna start off with the good because the bad's gonna be more not about the show. Anyway, we'll start with the good. This show is really fun. I don't know what it is about zombies and comedy that just mixes so well. Maybe it's just because it's really easy to make the zombie theme just fucking ridiculous, and comedy just kind of easily feeds into it. Like putting human zombies in a shark zombie and having it run around on land because it has human legs, and it's just whoever came up with that idea is deserves a raise because that's just so fucking stupid and so amazing. I mean, you can kind of tell with my comedy. My comedy is the more ridiculous, the better. I don't know why. But like I said, it's fun to watch, and I think the color schemes actually help with this. Adding color instead of doing blood, everything being red. They're in like paint colors basically. And I mean, it kind of adds to the lightheartedness of it. Lightheartedness of zombies destroying everything. I mean, there's lots of things that they kind of add in that just make the entire zombie premise ridiculous. And it just feeds into the whole feel of the show. And I think it does a great job of that. And I think if you go into it with that expectation, then you're going to be very happy with this show. Like, if you go into this expecting something serious, you're going to be very, very disappointed. And my only real complaint about this show is that it's stopped at 9 episodes. The season is not 9 episodes. It's supposed to be, I think, like 12 episodes, but it's in development hell, basically. And that's my one real problem with it. And that's kind of what I want to talk a little bit about. I did a little bit of research, probably not enough, but from what I understand, the company basically had to push back the development of the last couple of episodes because they were overworking people. Now, I want people to not be overworked at work and be able to relax and have a life and all that fun stuff, but I am not perfect. I know that's surprising. But a part of me is still disappointed and wants people to, go finish the fucking show so that I can watch it. And I understand that is two different sides, and my compassionate side, and that's probably not the right word, I'm not that compassionate. My reasonable side wins out, saying that, hey, give people a break, it's fine. And my unreasonable part is just slowly, silently fighting the entire thing. I get it. Hey, it's going to be a while before the rest of the show comes out. That's fine. That's not that big of a deal. I do hope that they continue making it at their earliest convenience. Because I am really enjoying the show and hoping that they make more of it. All right, that's it for the season. And if I didn't watch something that you think that I should have watched, then put it in the comments. And then next time that I make a review, I'll tell you how bad it was and how you shouldn't watch it. I'm kidding. That's it. See ya.